Alright, hello and welcome to Pimp My Chaos Lord Volume 1. So what I'm going to be working on today is I'm going to be doing some custom modifications to the standard Chaos Lord. Currently he is in a couple of pieces. I've already started this a little bit, but I'll get you up to speed. Basic Chaos Lord. I plan on using a little bit of pieces from a Demon Prince model, some pieces from a Reaper miniature, this little guy right here, and some lights. His eyes are going to light up with a magnetic switch. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm working on the magnetic switch and the electronics. So with all of my light up models, the first thing I do is I will hollow out a path for the wiring to go. This one actually is kind of easier, on the easier side of doing things, because his legs are in several pieces. So for the wiring, I need a path for the wiring to go through. I've already hollowed out the foot. You can see a hole drilled clean through on here on one foot. And then I'm currently working on the butt portion. You can see that I hollowed out a larger hole in the midsection, and then I'm starting for the leg to the path through there. Keep in mind you want to keep these runs for the wiring as straight as possible because it makes it easier to hide mistakes, makes it easier to move things. I have a combination of drill bits that I've gotten from Harbor Freight. They're about $6 or $7 for the set. It's not bad. They break really easy. You go through a lot of them, plus other various hand drills and stuff like that. Keep in mind I said by hand. You do not want to use power drills or Dremel tool. A lot of people do. Personally, every time I've tried to use them, it melts them and screws it up. There's no better way of doing it by hand. So if I can hold this video camera, I'll give you an example of how I drill this out. Set this up over here. Okay, so there's no real easy way of doing this. All you do is you're going to take your drill. Sometimes I use the smaller ones, the really tiny ones, to get it started, to get a starter hole. And I'll poke a little hole in there and drill a pilot hole. And then I'll work my way up to the larger ones, depending on how delicate the piece is. The Chaos Lord, I'm using the Terminator armor, so it's pretty thick and it's pretty easy to get through. I'm not even sure what the size is. This is a 5/64. You can use any size that you want depending on the wire you use. Typically I use stripped Cat 5 just because I have a ton of it laying around. But you can use any type of wiring. Keep in mind you'll need something that'll pass electrical current by the time you get done, as well as an LED. So no easy way of doing it. Just sit there and drill by hand. Like I said, I only do it by hand because otherwise it rips the model apart, melts things, and you'll see the stuff coming out there. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and whenever I get back, I'll show you what the finished product looks like. Okay, so I've broken through to my bigger hole in the top, and a lot of these have angles on them and stuff. I'll drill from one side and then the other, back and forth, and you'll see if you start to go through the plastic by places where it starts to get a little bit bulgy and a little bit white. You can almost see an example of that on my foot here, where it's starting to bulge out a little bit, where I cut my angle kind of short. But then again, I want to make my hole as big as possible without compromising the sidewalls, but big enough to where I can make my wire slide freely. I like my wire to be able to slide freely because I like to be able to make adjustments, because I'm going to be using fiber optics in the end. That's real important. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it does make a big difference. And then once I have my initial hole, I'm going to try to hollow it out again as bigger. If I can get it any bigger, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use just a slight bigger drill bit and make the hole a little bit bigger. And I'm going to keep doing that until I've made it as big as I can possibly make that hole. That'll make my wire slide a lot freer. You know, the art of drilling out a model this small is, there's no easy way of doing it. It's nothing but practice. You just got to keep doing it over and over and over again. I've lit up most of my army, so I've got quite a bit of practice on this sort of thing. So, I don't know if you can see that hole very well, but it goes all the way through at a single straight angle. Think of a line through it like that. And that's good. So, moving on. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my base I typically don't put things together until I'm ready, but I want to make a rather larger hole in this one, because this is what I'm going to end up doing. Is I'm going to have my LED is actually going to sit in the waist here. I have a little LED sitting here, and then the head will have fiber optic line to it that touches into that LED and lights the eyes up. So the LED will actually be hidden inside here. I know that this works really well in Terminators because I have 10 other Terminators that did the exact same way, and they turned out really good. This happens to be my Chaos Lord, but his body style is basically the same, so it'll work out pretty good. So now I put a rubber band around the body to hold it together while I drill it out. I've got a drill bit that's about the size of my LED top. I use the 3mm LEDs. Ordered them cheap off of eBay, about $1 for like 10. I got a whole box full of them. That's what I use for most of mine. This guy will be done in just a solid red, because that's most of my army. Some of them have you can get multicolors and stuff like that. Some really neat looking stuff. 7 colors, 3 colors, 2 flashing, whatever. All in a single LED, so you don't have to worry about any other electronics or anything like that. Which is really important whenever you do on the small, because you don't have room for circuit boards and other shit. All you really have room for is batteries, a reed switch, and the light. And we'll get to how to wire up the on-off switches and stuff in a little while. Now, on these in particular, the Chaos Lords and the Terminators, I'm going to hollow out a little bit more than my drill bit brought out. Mostly because I want room for a head that's not supposed to go there, as well as my LED to stick up a little bit into this cavity. So there's going to be almost no space between my LED and my fiber optics. Now, again, fiber optics, I used to use fishing line, which works okay, but I found that real fiber optics are relatively cheap. You can get a strand for about a foot strand off of eBay for $1 or $2. And there's a big difference between real fiber optics and fishing line. Buy the real stuff. Just buy it straight off of eBay. It's worth it. With as much, if you're looking at lighting up a model this small, then you shouldn't have any trouble spending an extra $1 or $2 on real fiber optics. You'll make a difference, and the end results will be a lot better. So I'm just going to kind of carve this out, with a really sharp X-Acto knife. The old-fashioned Hobby Lobby X-Acto knife. I'm just going to kind of carve it a little bit to where I have a little bit of a recessed cavity. Now, one other thing I highly recommend is having a large amount of green stuff available, because you want your light to be in the right places. You don't want it to be shining through. But then again, you want to have enough room to touch up with stuff like fiber optics. You don't want to be very, very limited where everything has to poke perfectly, because otherwise it's just a real pain in the butt to get it to fit. Some of the smaller models, you don't really have a lot of choice with that. Hell, my Berserkers were terrible like that, but the Chaos Lords, we got a little bit of room to play. And I don't want it to be shining up here in the back whenever you see it. I want it to be nothing but the eyes lit up. It creates a lot better effect.